Hospitality professionals rely on HD Supply facilities and maintenance for the day-to-day maintenance of their engineering departments, housekeeping supplies, as well as their capital expenditure renovations. And why? Because they're reliable and they've been around for decades. They have over 100,000 products and they have a nationwide distribution system. They have an amazing dedicated sales representation force, and they have the tools, technology, and specialized services to make your hotel spectacular.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Hey, Anthony.
Glenn, what is up?
How are you, sir?
I tell you, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and it's 70 degrees and sunny and kind of fall-y, and I love those kind of days.
Well, you know, speaking of fall, we happen to be here at our brand new home base. I want to thank the Garden City Hotel for having us, and they, and Anthony, happen to have a great celebrations package for the fall where you get an autumn-inspired amenities such as fresh-baked pumpkin spice cookies and delicious New York State apple cider, and even a $50 F&B credit for the Red Salt Room by David Burke. So I'm thinking that we've got to come and enjoy this place another time, bringing our spouses or something.
I just said it's the next full day, and you made time for a commercial. You're a genius.
That's right. You know, I'm all about connecting those things. And speaking about being...
And just so you know, I had no idea you were going to do that, but that was good. But seriously, Garden City Hotel has decided to allow us to come here and do our podcast. So a great shout out to them, and I truly appreciate it. We're in a lovely room right now, and they even had a little coffee and tea set up for us. So truly appreciate it. But the Garden City Hotel is really a beautiful hotel.
And the best thing about this is I don't have to get on the Long Island Railroad to go all the way to Manhattan to do this. We could do it here in the comforts of Garden City. Thank goodness.
And you know what's so funny? If you think about marketing, what's better than having the Garden City in the name of your hotel? When people are looking for hotels in Garden City, they come up first.
I know. It's you would think that even though this building is so old and historic, they were thinking ahead to what Google would want to do.
That's true.
Right?
All right. So
today we're going to talk about stuff that's in the news. And on our last news-focused shows, we spoke about an issue on racism where Robert Johnson, the founder of Black Entertainment Television and the owner of $1 billion hotel company, wasn't able to get access to the Old Palm Beach Resort and Spa in August because he refused to take off of his sunglasses. Turned into a whole racial kerfuffle. Fortunately, it seems as the hotel apologized. They released a statement saying, hey, it's all cool. Then they all just want to kind of move on with their lives. So,
hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hey, we potentially made you feel like this was racism. We're sorry. You're cool? And he said, yeah, I'm cool?
Yeah. They actually wound up releasing a joint statement. He actually said he thinks it's a silly rule, and I think it has overtones of racial profiling in it, but they released this joint statement. They had a lunch. They talked it over, blah, blah, blah. So they all worked it out, and I thought it was important for us to put that little fine note on the story that it does have an ending, and I don't want people to just think that hotel didn't take any responsibility for what happened.
Okay.
All right. So big news. Arnie Sorensen, we all know him as the CEO of Marriott. He's saying that the trade war with China could actually hurt travel to the United States. Now, we've seen numbers to the United States for international travel drop, and conventional thinking has been that numbers are dropping simply because of our president's anti-immigration stance and some of the things that he's said. I've spoken to a lot of people in our industry, including Roger Dow, the U.S. Travel, who's saying that there are other factors that are happening right now when it comes to why people aren't coming. But it does seem like
what are those factors?
What are the factors? That's a very good question, Anthony. Some of those factors would be just that there's other places to travel to, for example.
Well, I know that the Chinese government is restricting the amount of business or real estate that people can own in other countries, specifically the United States. The Waldorf Astoria got caught up in that, right? And now the Waldorf Astoria was owned by a company that owned too much real estate outside of China, and they decided that they had to sell it, as I understand it. And now, actually, the Chinese government's taking ownership of the Waldorf Astoria. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
So
what are they going to do with it now?
they're actually, from what my people tell me, I love being able to
Your
say
people?
that. My people, yeah.
I want people. I got some people.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my people are telling me that they're actually doing the renovation on the building now. So there is stuff happening
And they're gonna
at the
sell it?
Waldorf. No, it's. I don't know who it's going to be sold to, but probably, it'll
Well,
probably
the Chinese
be sold.
government's not going to own it.
No,
is it?
no, no, no. They're
Okay.
going to have to get out of it at some point.
So I think, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I like history. However, I don't know a lot about the tariff wars,
Mm-hmm.
but I do understand that right before the Great Depression, there was a trade war.
Yeah.
And a lot of people claim that had a lot to do with the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be many reasons for the lack of travel or the decrease in travel from China. I'm not an expert on it, but I would imagine several things. And I think one of the things could be some restrictions from the Chinese government that are maybe not allowing as many visas or a lot of, not allowing people to travel as much.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's. I think that could be one element of it. The Chinese government is known to play with their visa laws constantly. Just take a
Well,
look
they're
at.
a communist country.
Yes. So just take a look at what's happened to the Macau region. Macau is a former Portuguese colony that's based in the southern part of China. I think it's about 90-minute ferry ride from Hong Kong, and it's become the world's leading gambling destination. So every once in a while, China will change rules. You can only go once every 6 months. You're welcome to go as much as you want, whatever. So we're used to them playing games with immigration. But Sorensen's issue, I think, is more of a global thought on how it's going to work. But it's
Well,
interesting.
before you go forward, can I
Yeah.
give you a fun fact
Oh,
about
please.
Macau?
Yeah. I could do a whole show on Macau. I love Macau.
Well, I've never been. Have you?
Neither
you've
have
been?
I. I'm
Oh, right.
dying
Me
to go
too.
to Macau.
And do you know their constitution is the Portuguese constitution?
It's one of those things like Hong Kong. Once they got it back, they kind of left it as almost a separate entity, but
No,
not
but
really.
their law is for X amount of years is the Portuguese law.
That makes sense because it was a Portuguese colony
Isn't
for all of that
interesting?
time. Yeah.
I thought that was
Well,
interesting.
yeah, it is interesting because Hong Kong has a lot of British law, right?
Yeah,
Because it was
that's
owned
true.
by the British. So
That's true.
that makes sense to
So
me.
you were saying about Artie Sorensen?
Yeah. So he met with President Trump a couple of weeks ago to talk about growing international travel to the U.S. Growing meaning having it get more people coming, as opposed to it is growing because it is not growing right now. And he told the president that his rhetoric on security and immigration can be heard as uninviting to global visitors. So he said, actually, to Bloomberg, that travel is not really about immigration. It's about where people are taking vacations and where people are doing commerce. So I think that's where the China tariff issue comes in right now. We're having this trade war. It's costing a lot more to get goods and stuff from China. So a lot of those Chinese nationals may not be coming over here anymore to try to make deals. But I think when it comes to vacations, America's really fallen behind. We've always fallen behind. Since the 9/11 era, travel and tourism has grown dramatically throughout the world. And while our travel has been remaining relatively stable and flat. So as more people around the world begin to travel, we're not getting our fair share of those travelers. They're looking to just go other places entirely. And I'm wondering what some of those reasons might be in this day and age. I think the number one reason is it could be expensive to travel here. And we don't seem all that welcoming. And when you do come here, it's such a large country, you don't know where to begin. So if you're a Chinese traveler or if you're a European traveler, it just might make sense to go somewhere that's closer to home, easier, more approachable.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that there are, like, think about it. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people I know want to go to China, right? I don't really want to go to China, but maybe one day I'll get to China.
I think you should go to China.
I would love to go, but it's not in my top 10, right?
Well,
I would
okay.
love to learn the language because I think it would benefit me in many ways, but I'd rather go to Japan.
Yeah.
My number
Okay.
one list is to go to Japan.
Fair enough. I really want to go to Japan.
And I love Vietnam. So anyway, that's a far, far, far trip, and it's very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the elite of China, they have an apartment in New York City.
Yeah.
So I don't know the reasons, Glenn.
Yeah. All right. So, we'll leave it at that. I'm curious as to what everyone out there thinks. Drop us a line and let us know what you see. Are you seeing at your hotels a drop in international tourism? What do you think are the real reasons for it, not just the rhetoric that we might get on the news?
However, New York City has seen more travel. Every year it's breaking a record. We have 61 million visitors last year.
But New York is New York. I'd be curious to see how many are going to South Dakota.
New York.
Example,
There's
right?
a song about that.
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere along the line.
The guy who sang the Chicago song.
Hey, look, it's one hell of a town. That's all. That's all now I know. All right, so this next story, this is an interesting one. I'm really curious to what you think. So, everybody loves LAX. No, nobody likes LAX.
I just came from LAX 2 days ago.
Did you? What do you think of the travel experience at LAX?
Okay, this is the way I think of travel in general.
Right.
When I am traveling on business, I put my head down, and I use Delta Airlines. I'm fortunate enough that when I'm traveling, people put me in first class, and I go to the Sky Lounge. And it's always a good experience.
Yep.
I couldn't tell LAX from LaGuardia to Kennedy to Chicago O'Hara because I am so focused on just getting into my
Right.
zone. But I did something funny happen on the way to LAX. I'm actually getting on the plane. I sit down and I have this thing that I put my headphones on before my butt's in the seat because I don't want to talk to anybody. Not that I'm rude, but I'm exhausted most of the time when I'm traveling, and I just want to have my headphones on and listen to my podcast. Not our podcast, but other podcasts or my music.
You
or
mean
whatever I'm
like
watching.
my No Vacancy podcast? No, just kidding.
Or when I want
Have to get in the shameless
actually,
plug.
I don't listen to it because I don't want to hear about hotels when I'm traveling. But I did not have my headphones on quick enough, and the gentleman next to me said, "So where are you traveling to?" Or no, he knows where I was traveling to because he was going where I was going.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, so you're going home?" And I was like, "No." And then we started talking for 45 minutes,
Right.
and had a delightful conversation. And I learned that you can sell buffalo for like $850,000, and that he had a ranch, and he bought it from a very famous company. Anyway,
Did he
so we
buy
had this
from
great
Ted Turner? Because Ted Turner owns all those buffalo.
But he anyway, we had a great conversation. But so very rarely do I open my eyes and open my ears and allow myself to experience kind of what's going on around me. There's no one that goes in the travel zone harder and stronger than me.
Right. All right.
So I don't really have anything bad to say about LAX simply because I got to get on a plane. I got to get home.
Well, here's something that a lot of you out there might appreciate a little bit more about LAX. It might help you, Anthony, if you loosen up and get into the right head. You are now allowed, following Proposition 64, you are now allowed to bring your weed with you to the airport. Put it right in your carry-on, along your phone charger and toothbrush and whatever else, and they are not going to give you any guff.
But if you bring it to a state that's not legal, you can get arrested.
But they're not going to bother you at LAX.
Right. So that's good. But when you get on the plane to Chicago, when you get on a plane to New York and you have pot in your bag, you may get nailed for it.
By whom?
I don't know.
I
don't know. There's a dog that's sniffing for drugs. I don't know.
Nah, dogs are sniffing bombs. They don't care about the drugs. Actually, between you and me, I've spoken to people at TSA. They're really just not interested.
They don't care.
No, it has nothing to do with what their mission is to make sure that we all remain safe. Some dude, bringing some weed home with him to this, to the city he's from. It's not really going to affect anybody.
So the people on my production team should be safe going through LAX.
Hey, I'm sitting here talking to you.
Well, I don't smoke pot, so it's not going to affect me. But listen, we can have a whole 10 podcasts on this because what's more dangerous? I've never seen anybody wrap their car around a tree smoking a joint.
Right.
But I've seen many people wrap their cars around trees drinking alcohol.
You probably never saw that terrible documentary that was out there about those guys that couldn't find the White Castle in New Jersey that time. Harold and Kumar. That's what it was.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen it, but I know what you were referencing.
Yeah, it took me a minute to remember that
that's
name.
Interesting. So you go through LAX and you can bring your weed with you and on the carry-on. Listen, it's been it's changed from when you and I were growing up.
Yeah, that's right.
When you bought your weed bag, because maybe I knew people that smoked pot in high school, maybe,
Maybe.
and there was a corner they would get their weed from, and it was like people were afraid they were going to have a sting operation, take them down, and put them in jail for the rest of their lives. So it was during the whole just say no to drugs and Nancy Reagan and a bag of weed can put you in jail. I think that's changed dramatically.
Yep.
I think even in New York City, the DA won't prosecute.
They've been instructed not to.
Right. So police are like, then what the hell am I going to waste my time for if you're not going to prosecute this person? So I think it's changed dramatically.
So what do you think about the that cultural shift when it comes to heading in this direction? I mean, if an airport is saying don't worry about it, that to me says that as a society, we're starting to make that decision to not really worry about this anymore and not believe what Nancy Reagan said and not to believe that reefer madness BS that was passed along as fact.
Well, when my daughter's 21, because I have twins that are 19, and they've never had a zip of alcohol in their life, according to them.
Good.
Right? At
Yeah,
19.
yeah.
They're in college, and they never had a beer. I'm just kidding, because they probably have.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't know if I'm ready to know that my daughter smoked a joint. I was just talking to one of my daughters and my nephew, and they said in the dorms, you smell pot all the time.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know if I'm, as a father, ready to know that my daughter smoked a joint. With that said, I'd rather my daughter tell me. But, being a father, I don't want them to drink or smoke a joint. So,
right.
So on one hand, I think, it's time. I think it's time to legalize marijuana across the country. But just like I don't drink, really.
Totally,
I'm not
Anthony.
going to smoke pot.
I think we're going to. I think that this issue.
Although I do like
I
the
really,
scotch.
I really do have to talk out of both sides of my mouth on this this issue because I think when you look at your children, you don't look at the big overarching rules of society wanting to apply to your children as well. I don't want to think of my kids as smoking, drinking, being sexually active, doing anything that's remotely fun or interesting at all, because that then makes me, as a human being, have to face, I guess, my reality that I'm getting older and I'm being replaced by these young adults, right?
Right.
So I think that's to me that's a really big issue. But societally speaking, it's really nice to see that people are understanding that cannabis is really not that harmful when compared to specifically alcohol. And seeing the sophistication of the way that these businesses are being operated now is pretty incredible.
Can you pass the joint, by the way?
Yeah. I was out in Colorado last month, and just seeing how interesting these organizations are put together, and how you really need to have a PhD in botany in order to grow some of these plants, and the sophisticated way that they package them and they logo them and they market them. It's really, I think, the most creative, interesting business that's out there right now. And we're seeing such a land rush with weed in the hospitality industry. It's blowing me away. I can't specifically say the person's name, but a former bigwig, a former CEO of a major hotel company I know is making a plan to get heavily into the cannabis business. Every hotel company.
Can I guess his name?
I can't tell you if it's right or not.
Okay.
All right. So you
I
can
just
guess.
knowing this business, as long as I know, there's only one person that literally pops in my head.
Yeah.
I'll just say he's from L.A. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. I'm not going to say that person is not from L.A.
Okay? And I'm going to write the person's name down, and you can just nod your head.
No, believe it or not, that is not the person.
Oh, okay,
although, now that you write that person's name down, I totally understand where you're coming from. But what I find interesting is, and for you listeners out there, I travel around all over all the major hotel events throughout the year, right? So every time I go to these events, sitting over a cocktail party, at least one or two hoteliers come up to me and they tell me about how they want me to help them partner on like 420 hotels. Everybody wants in on this cannabis business. They all think it's going to be big
I get
business.
a lot of requests for it.
So what do you think then, dovetailing off this story, as to the future viability of, cannabis hotels?
I don't think you're going to need cannabis hotels.
Right.
I think
Agreed.
what you're going to need, I think it's going to be a quick flip. Give you an example. 30 years ago in Hawaii, there were many gay hotels, right? So people that were gay wanted to go to gay hotels to be around people that live their lifestyle.
Right. Makes sense.
Right? Now, whether it be Marriott, Marriott's the same thing, Hilton, whatever, you feel comfortable being a gay couple going to these hotels because it's inclusive now. Now people feel comfortable going to hotels that aren't just gay hotels, but just hotels.
Right.
And because they want to be with their straight friends as well as their gay friends. So why should they isolate themselves to go to just a gay hotel? Because they feel safer now than they did 30 years ago. And this is all coming through friends that I know that are gay
Right.
that have told me this. So when I did a hotel in Hawaii, it was the last gay hotel in Hawaii. And I asked the owners, and it's on TV, it's a Maui hotel, the Sunseeker, and I asked him, do you want the gay dollar or do you want the heterosexual dollar? He goes, I want both. Then you got to make them both feel comfortable. So the hotel doesn't need to be just a gay-only hotel. You got to get, he said, no, I want both. I said, but your marketing, I showed them, I go, gay, 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 gay. Everything on this marketing brochure was gay. So why would I, as a heterosexual male, to have gay friends feel comfortable coming to a gay-only hotel? Because I feel like I'd be making you uncomfortable, right? So now there's not as many gay resorts as there was 30 years ago because people want it all inclusive.
Fascinating.
I think the same thing is going to happen with cannabis. I think, since it's not a criminal offense in a lot of states anymore, I think what's just going to naturally happen is you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes and you're not allowed to smoke pot in my hotel. But there'll be a smoking zone. And if you smoke pot in that smoking zone, I'm not going to care. Okay, do you need an all hotel that just you can smoke pot? The answer could be yes. However, this is just my thought. I don't like the smell of smoke. Okay? So I don't want to, even if I smoke pot, which I don't want to be in a hotel that smells like pot smoke. Almost every person I know that smokes cigarettes asks for non-smoking rooms because they smoke outside because they don't want to smell smoke. So I don't know if there's going to be a big, hey, come to this hotel and let's smoke. You can smoke marijuana throughout the hotel. I could be 100% wrong. I was wrong that Amazon was going to be the biggest thing in the world. So who knows?
Right. I find that
does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me, and I am wondering about the need to have these hotels. I think there was a need specifically for these hotels at one point, but as it starts to become a regular part of society and no big deal,
5 years from now it'll be a regular part.
You don't need to sequester yourself in a special place.
Once the Democrats become get into office, and if they ever do again, I think they'll pass the rule and everybody will be smoking pot.
Yeah. Even the current administration, the current president doesn't think that it's such a terrible thing. And that the tide has changed when you've got all of these major Republicans that are currently in office or recently in office, John Boehner, talking about getting into the business, because once you make that argument that you can make money on it, that right side of the aisle seems to get a lot more behind.
Listen, you had Vegas and you had Atlantic City. Now I can't go down the highway without seeing gambling, because once there's money's involved, there's money involved.
Anthony, that is so exactly the thing that I've been telling people for 5 years, that I think that the cannabis legalization movement is going to be exactly the same as the spread of casino gambling.
It's over. It's going to happen. I mean, I think outside of maybe a couple of states,
right?
Unless it's a federal law that it's legalized. Outside of what's the
I'm not counting on Utah anytime soon.
Thank you. I was going to say, what's the state I'm thinking about? Utah. I can't imagine them legalizing marijuana unless it's a federal, a federal law. However, listen, what I say is, when you look at a piece of business, right? You look at a piece of business and you have to look at all the factors that can contribute to your business. So if you're going to open a marijuana-only hotel, you have to then think about the potential of federal government legalizing or not legalizing. Right. And so you have to take a calculated risk. You have to take a calculated bet. So if I was taking a calculated risk and I was going to invest millions of dollars on a marijuana hotel, I would probably say, hey, how about if I just build a really nice hotel?
That's right.
And if people want to smoke marijuana and it's legal in my state, you can't smoke in my hotel, but I'll have a smoking zone. Go smoke your pot.
Yeah, and you know what I would own?
I don't know if I would take that risk.
Right, and you know what I would own? I would own the store right next to the hotel if I was the hotelier. Mm-hmm. That way you can have the best of both worlds.
100%.
You're not creating something that's going to make people feel excluded.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating a situation where people feel comfortable, and then you're creating that extra revenue stream for yourself by having it right next door.
Right. So I think, listen, you have to make it comfortable for people that want to smoke pot, but you also have to, more importantly, you have to make it comfortable for the majority of people in that hotel that don't want to smoke pot. So if you're looking for a niche business in a hotel, those don't seem to work. Niche hotels don't seem to work unless it's a very extreme hotel. Like there's the show that I do, Extreme Hotels,
Right.
where I go around and I treehouse hotels and yada yada yada. Now, if you open 3 or 4 treehouse hotels in that city, you're not going to do as well because that niche is now flooded.
Agreed, but even that is more protected than a 420 hotel because I want to have that rarefied experience, but I could smoke weed anywhere now. Like we said earlier, I could just walk down the street to New York City and be left alone.
I won't tell you who, but I was at a friend's apartment not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago. Knock, knock. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He got a delivery.
Yep.
He's sitting there and he's unpacking his delivery, and I go, "What the hell was that?" He goes, "My pot." I go, "Dude, really?" And he starts smoking. He goes, "You want some?" I said, "You know I don't smoke pot." And so I don't smoke pot.
Right.
I don't want to smoke it. But like it got delivered to his house in
Yeah.
a really nice package.
Yeah.
I mean, so you don't need to go to a hotel to smoke. You're going to smoke pot. And like I said, are you going to smoke pot in your room? A lot of people don't want to smoke in their room. They're going to go outside. So I don't have enough of education. I don't think there's enough information out there to tell me if it would be successful or not successful.
Right.
All I'm saying is when people come to me and say, I want to buy a seasonal hotel, I say, why?
Right.
Because why are you taking 8 months of income out of your pocket? Go to a different state and buy a hotel that you can run for 24, there's 24 months in a year or 12?
I think
12. So 12 months. I don't know why I said 24. 12 months a year as opposed to 4 months a year.
Right.
Right? So you have a great summer, you're going to be rich
Right.
because you can charge $900. But if you don't have a great summer, you're going to be sucking it up. Same thing with when you start any business. When you start really focusing on one thing, okay, and you have to have that demographic be your only demographic, you have a problem. When I ran the Nickelodeon Hotel, our only demographic was children. Well, children, a Nickelodeon Hotel was not Disney World where they 12 months a year they have business because of conventions. So 8 months a year we were killing ourselves to try to fill that hotel because most of the people were in school.
Right. Yeah, it never occurred to me because me as a business traveler, I would never stay at the Nickelodeon Hotel because it's not geared towards my needs.
Not only you wouldn't stay there, we wouldn't want you there. I'll give you an example. Our security team was trained that if a couple or anyone, any male or female or couple without children come to our hotel, just
pay attention to them.
Strike up a conversation why they're there because no one, like when I was in Disney World just a couple weeks ago on business, right? I was there on business, and there were a lot of people on business, a lot of conventions. That's normal. We don't have conventions at Nickelodeon, so we watched people. So we had trouble 8 months a year. We came up with a great marketing idea, and we saved our hotel. But that's for another show. But it was difficult, and eventually the company that owned it kind of had to sell it, and they had to reposition it back to a Holiday Inn family suite, as opposed to just a Nickelodeon because business travelers weren't going.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense with me. I've always been suspicious of adult men that like other people's children too much.
Well,
right?
That's a whole different.
That's a whole different story. But I mean, I was a teen travel counselor, and the guy who was
You were what?
I was a teen travel counselor when I was 18.
You were a
19.
teen travel counselor.
Summer camp, teen travel. Right, they had this group of kids, high school kids, junior high school kids that would go on travel trips. I was one of the counselors.
Oh, got it.
The older head counselor liked being with kids a little too much, and there were a couple of incidents that I wound up reporting him and that sort of thing, and he never came back after that. And ever since then, I've been very cognizant of that. When my kids were in like Cub Scouts, for example, and it's like, who wants to take the kids camping this weekend? The guy who raises their hand? No. I want that guy that's trying to get out the back door who wants to go watch football, right? Because, that's me.
I think that's also, you're putting people in categories because I'd be the first person to raise my hand to go because I want to be there with my daughter.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody else being there with my daughter. So, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I can watch my daughter.
I get it.
So you can't make, in my opinion, you can't generalize.
Oh, just
that.
watch me.
But I get your point. And what the hell was the question?
I don't know. We're talking about weed hotels, and somehow we went down.
But what was the news? Just so you know, I have no idea what news article he's going to read to me. So,
well, that's what I love about this conversation because we started with LAX allowing you to carry weed, and now I'm talking about how I try to avoid child molesters in my life. But
Right.
not that weed has anything to do with
I would
that.
never let my children sleep over anybody's house.
Yeah. Right.
And they don't understand we're the meanest people in the world, but whatever. I can be okay with that. So what's the next news story?
All right. So the final news story for today is I always think that this is one of those cool things that are really great, in my opinion, for PR, but not necessarily something that people actually get use out of. This company, a particular hotel, is going to pay you. It's called Vendanta, a collection of luxury destinations, resorts in Mexico and Latin America. They're hiring a brand ambassador and social influencer who's going to spend 1 year for $120,000 exploring their resorts in Puerto Vallarta, Puerto Peñasco, Riviera Maya, Los Cabos, and other places that they have. So they're going to be out there and creating videos, photos, and stories and turning it into content shareable on social media platforms. Interesting job, but more interesting that they're turning it into a PR-driven story. What do you think?
I think it's brilliant. I think more hotels should do it. My friend Carla Cacavalli actually did that a long time ago at one of her resorts. I picked up the idea and did it for a show on Hotel Impossible in Puerto Rico, where we did a campaign and basically said we'll give you $100,000 a year or whatever it was to sit on the beach and basically log and socialize on social media about our resort. So I think it's a great idea. I think that's really the wave of the future. I think it's going to be, you're going to have to experience the hotel before you experience the hotel. And I think that's one way of doing it. So I think it's an older idea, and that's been out there. And I think if they do it right, it won't become so much a PR thing, or it'll be more like brushing your teeth in the morning.
Right.
It's just something you have to do.
Right. I agree that it's something that you have to do, and it's also a great PR mechanism in the sense that they're drawing attention to the brand and getting people to apply for that particular job.
But I'm going to not challenge you, but I'm going to ask you the question.
Yeah.
Is PR an event, or is PR part of breathing?
Now it's part of breathing.
Right. Okay. So PR now, when I was growing up in this business, it was marketing.
Right.
And then somewhere in the world, I realized, oh my God, I can't afford marketing, so I'm going to do PR. So we came up with the $10,000 martini. Thank you, Carla Cacavalli. And we just exploded, right? So PR was like that one event, and then maybe another event. Now PR is happening every single day. I mean, I'm in the phone. My kids are the best PR people in the world, because if you want to know what my daughter likes in her coffee, she's going to tell you, because apparently when we were growing up, if you took a picture of yourself and showed your friends, they think there's something wrong with you and you go to the mental institution. Now, my friends and my children, I mean, every time I turn around, they're posting a picture of food or something else. So
yeah, I'm actually taking a selfie of me eating a croissant right now.
So they PR themselves. Everybody now,
Yep.
like if you look at my social media, I do social media because I'm on TV and I'm a public figure, right? So if you really want to know me, you just look at my social media. I'm a public relations arm of my company, personally, because you would know 2 weeks ago I had a Sweet 16 for my daughter.
Right.
You would know that I was at the Peninsula Hotel last week. You would know that I was on the boardwalk at Orlando the week before. You would know probably before I leave today that me and Glenn did a podcast.
Right.
I'm going to Rome to do a speaking engagement next week. You'll know that because I'm going to post about it. Then I'm going to Albania, of all places, to do something. So you will know where I am. So I'm public relations up to wazoo, because that's what I need to do, because that's what people that watch me on TV want to see. So I think we have to start thinking stop making these big, huge PR moves and think every single day as a PR move. I would, if I took over a hotel tomorrow, I would change one thing in my schedule that I've done my whole life.
Right.
I have a certain way I run a hotel. I would have a social media PR meeting every single day.
Interesting.
For 20 minutes a day, and I would have a PR social media person on board, especially if it's a fancy hotel, and I want to know every single day what we're doing, how we're presenting ourselves to the world. So PR, we need a new term for public relations. Maybe it's what?
Well,
social media relations.
When I went into this business, that wound up me partnering with you on this podcast. I mean, my whole notion was being a content creator, right?
And we talked about you taking advantage.
Yeah,
of me.
right.
We
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm still hoping to be able to take advantage of you in other ways, but we'll get to that in another show. But seriously though, I think PR has matured to the sense, and customers have matured in a sense that they're not going to be as open to traditional advertising as it is. And when you fold in that PR thing, they're also not into the traditional thing. That $10,000 martini was a huge, huge hit. I remember it as being a very seminal event when it happened in the PR community. It changed everything when that came out.
Thank you.
And it wasn't about selling $110,000 martinis. It was selling $110,000 martinis. I may have misspoken there.
We sold one.
Yeah. Right. Better than I would have expected. But that wasn't the point. The point was to draw attention to the hotel through something so outrageous and incredible that everyone in the media paid attention. You couldn't pull that off today. Now you have to do something different, something creative, something that's, like you said, day to day, connecting with more of the individual travelers that are fantasizing about the travel experience.
It got so big. I don't know if I ever mentioned this on the podcast.
I don't think you
did.
It got
so big that there's a question in Trivia Pursuit. What's at the bottom of the Algonquin $10,000 martini or martini on the rocks? And the answer is a diamond. Right. So when you're in Trivia Pursuit, you've done something. I was watching TV the other day, one of those Rich and Famous shows, and literally 2 weeks ago, it was on air, people talking about it. So it's just stayed there, and it's just worked for the hotel. So thank you for saying that. And the New York Times rated it the number one hotel marketing idea for the last 10 years. So with that said, social media is the new PR, right? So if you look at, give an example. My brother-in-law just told me this, or my sister-in-law just told me this, and I didn't realize. Alexa. Do you have an Alexa or
yes?
What's the other one?
Of course. Echo. No, that's the same thing. That's Alexa.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have an Alexa and you say, "Hey Alexa, I want to know what the weather is in Hawaii,"
Siri,
right? You know what happens?
She tells you.
No, she tells you, and then you know what happens 10 minutes later when you go to your internet and you go pull up an email?
Yeah.
There's an ad that says, "Come to Hawaii."
That's right.
Dude.
I know.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
That's insane. Yep. And I have an Alexa, but I unplug it because that's just like that's just too intense. So let's think about this for a second because I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. Really, PR, if you're not doing PR every single day, it's like the same thing. It's the same thing when all of a sudden the Westin Hotel said, "Hey, it's the bed stupid," right? We're all like, "Holy shit, it's the bed stupid." Same thing with PR. It's PR stupid. You have to have the housekeeper, front desk, general manager, owner, asset manager, the guy on the corner selling fruit, PRing your hotel. And it's got to become like brushing your teeth. It's got to become part of the business. Not a separate thing that we think about separately in a room that we then go out and PR like we used to. Now it's like part of the mission statement is we've got to walk the walk. You know,
Anthony,
Eric Long said one day, I just heard this, one of my friends told me.
Remind people who he is.
What's that?
Who remind people who
Eric Long is was the president of the Waldorf Astoria for 20 years. And he used to say to his employees, I don't want anybody. I actually may have been on
the one we did with Grady, the GM
Grady
of the Garden City Hotel.
Grady said it on our last podcast, who's the general manager of the Garden City Hotel. And he said, Eric Long says, I don't want anybody to work here that doesn't love the Waldorf Astoria. And I think that when you're building a business, you have to have the same passion as the owner, or you shouldn't be working with them. You should all feel the same way. So your PR should be coming out of your employees on a daily basis, and you should include them in PR.
Okay, so I think we've got an idea for a couple of more shows.
I think the
do's and don'ts of hotel PR, and ways to think like an owner.
And you know what, Carla Cacavalli, we're inviting you onto our podcast.
Yes, I would love to have. I would love to have her on the show because I'd like to know what it takes to find such an innovative idea that you reconstruct the way that people do their job in an entire industry.
And she will tell you how the $10,000 martini came out and how much she cursed me out for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time because she'll tell you the story.
All right. Excellent.
But it was her idea, but let's just put it this way. There was tremendous amount of pressure.
Oh.
And
like a diamond.
I was going to say, what diamonds, they need pressure.
Yep.
And but she came up with a lot of great ideas, and that was one of them. And actually, as we're talking, I'm actually texting her inviting her to our next podcast. Go ahead.
Excellent. So, Anthony, I think it's time to wrap up this episode. So, of course, I got to ask you the ubiquitous question. Tell me something I don't know.
Something you don't know about me.
That's right.
Okay. When I was a young boy, I liked baseball. I liked baseball a lot. and I won Team Player of the Year when I was, I don't know, however old, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And I sat on the bench 90% of the time. But I still got Team Player of the Year. Because when I was on the bench, if somebody wanted water, if somebody needed me to hand them the baseball bat, when the coach said, hey, the center fielder just crashed into the wall, go out there and catch the damn ball, and if you don't, I'm going to punch you in the face. I did whatever my coach told me to do. Mr. Riley, okay? Tim Riley? No. Yeah, it was Tim Riley. And I also know Tim Riley from IHG, but Tim Riley was my coach. And he was a tall Irish fella that didn't take any shit from anyone. And I was extraordinarily obedient. And anytime he asked me to do something, I did it. And then I won the award Team Player. And I was so proud of that because that was even more important to me than MVP. I wouldn't have won the MVP because I didn't play that much. Because you're talented, you're gifted if you're an MVP. You can catch the ball, you can hit the ball, you can run really fast. Those are things that maybe I didn't have, although I think I was a lot better than sitting on the bench 90% of the time. But by being a team player, I realized if I just did the right thing at the right time and just sucked it up, buttercup, that I will eventually hopefully get in the game. And the next year I played a lot more. And then finally people realized I was actually a good player and I didn't sit on the bench anymore. But that taught me a lot about, just suck it up and it will become your time.
Excellent. I love it. Beautiful story.
So, my friend.
Yes.
Tell me something I don't know.
I'm absolutely delightful after one martini and absolutely buzzy after two. So don't let me have two martinis.
So you're absolutely delightful after one martini.
Yes. Well, at least I find myself delightful. I'm really funny. You're
really funny?
And I've got a great personality.
So so for our next segment, I'm actually literally going to go down to the bar and get you a martini, and we're going to have a martini, and I'm going to have a scotch. Can
that sounds
do that?
great. Oh, I love that idea.
I think that's a
all
good
right.
idea.
Let's. You know what? Forget this podcast. Let's just head to the bar. So for Anthony and myself, Glenn, thanks for listening. Oh, we got to tell us where to find you. And
you can find me at Anthony Hotels anywhere you want to be on social media.
Excellent. And I am at Traveling Glenn on social media. Make sure you give us 5 stars on iTunes. It really helps us, gets people to discover our show, so more and more of you out there can hear.
Unless
all
you think we suck,
then
give us 2 stars.
Yeah, or join with 2 other your friends that think we suck, and maybe together it'll add up to 5 stars, and just give us one.
But if you've listened to this podcast to this point, listening to this, and you think we suck, then what the hell's wrong with your life if you're listening for 45 minutes to a podcast you think sucks?
Well, kind of why I watch politics on TV. I just don't like myself too much. All right. All right, so for Anthony and myself, Glenn, we'll see you. Thanks for checking in.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.